He's worked his tail off. Effort. He's been real sharp assignment-wise. Doug's done a really good job. I mean, he's super athletic. He's a big kid. He's 6'4". He can run around really well. He's quick on his inside stunts, and he's just did a really good job of through spring and summer of working out and putting himself in a position to get reps. And when he's had opportunities at reps, he's made plays. So that young man, give him a lot of credit, because when we first came in here and we're identifying guys, he wasn't one at the top of the list, and he's worked his way all the way up there. So it's been just a great job of hard work.
You have a pretty young linebacker group. Malik will all play like the veteran.
Malik is probably, it's funny right now, the guys you watch out there practicing, he's the veteran with about 12 snaps under his belt. So, I mean, that goes to tell you a little bit about our depth at linebacker. We don't have a lot of guys returning that have played. You saw Karan out there a little bit today. I mean, he's getting better. Outside of that, we've got a bunch of talented guys that haven't played a lot. So usually good football teams make a lot of improvement between week 1 and week 2. Hopefully we'll be pretty sharp week 1, and we'll see where that takes us. But I'm excited to see those guys get out there and play a real football game and see what we can do.
Coach, what about the athletics that were the secondary last season? How far along have they come, and are they ready for Saturday? Over the last 2 weeks, the assignments have drastically improved. The easiest way to get beat is to give up big plays because you're not in the right spot. And the guys that we have out there, I mean, that's probably, it sounds funny, the outside, the 2 corners, Kobe and Chase, are our most experienced guys on defense with Rennell and George. The inside guys, DeMonte's played some. Nobody else has. I mean, Jalen came over from offense. Daz played last year, but he's in a completely different role than he was before. Langston's never played before. You got Ashari Croswell out there who's never played before. Joey Bryant, who got hurt last year. So inside at the safety position, we're just like we are at linebacker. Not a whole lot of depth as far as guys that are experienced. But we got some guys that can make plays, and we think they can cover. So the most important thing, especially going against spread, now UTSA is not considered a spread team, but when we get into the conference, we're playing all those spread teams, we've got to be able to tackle in the secondary. And we'll see on Saturday how well these guys tackle. The best thing is the thing that they're learning, that if they miss, they're missing in the right spot. And if we play as hard as we expect, we'll have 2 or 3 guys there to make the tackle if we miss. And I'm excited to see what they do. I mean, we are so untested. We got to play a football game to see where we're at.
Speaking to the secondary, can you describe the progression that you've seen Jalen make from the spring into the summer and now as we head towards week 1, just in the overall transition to defense?
In the spring, Jalen was one that was relying on his football instincts. He wasn't really sharp in coverages. He didn't really. He was kind of doing his own thing as far as trying to just be a playmaker, which some of those things you like. I mean, but our philosophy is that everybody does their 1/11th, and then you have a chance to be successful. His transition from Ranger to Tillman has been really good. Give him some credit. Give him all the credit. He's made the time to come in the room and get some extra work. He takes notes every day. When he makes a mistake, he tries to identify it and not do it again. So assignment-wise, he is far ahead of where he was in the spring. And now he's starting to kind of act like a defensive player, being that he's one of our guys that has played football at this level, albeit on the offensive side. He's being a little bit more of a vocal leader, which we need in the secondary, especially from the Tillman spot. So, I mean, he's made a lot of progress, and I'm excited to see him. I mean, he's a physical kid. I'm excited to see him play.
Do you think that his progression was helped by the fact that he has a guy like Chase back there in the secondary who has also made the transition from offense to defense?
You know, Chase being a high school running back and now being a defensive back in the next level, at the college level, I think it helped a little bit. I think the communication between those 5 guys in the back end is really, really important. And we've done a lot. We do a walkthrough every single morning. We do some walkthroughs in the afternoon because the most important thing is if all 5 of those guys are on the same page, we have a chance of being successful. If one of those guys is wrong, all of a sudden touchdowns happen. And so, I mean, in our meetings, the 5 of those guys, they're talking to each other. They're calling out. And the thing that we've expressed to them, even if you're just talking your position out loud, you can convince the other guys what they're doing. If somebody's unsure, they know what you're doing because it's a collective whole, then they know what they're doing all of a sudden. So even if you don't know what to say, just say your assignment out loud. And they're starting to figure that out, and then they're starting to echo each other. So that stuff is really cleaned up. Being that those guys are both veterans that have played, I think it helps. And I think Jalen's just a football player. So, I mean, we could tell him to go over and play offense right now, and Coach Likens would give him a route, and he'd run it and catch the ball. So he'll be fine.
What's the biggest unknown
Well, I mean, that is very concerning. The fact that we have 4 guys that have played Division I football on defense. That's a scary thought. We got 7 of them that have really never played. That's very concerning. Tackling, that's very concerning. We've done. I mean, we're doing the rugby style stuff, which I think is really good in the secondary. We haven't had a lot of live. The live tackling that we've done. I just want to see those guys run around and the adrenaline. I want to see 4, 5, and 6 guys getting on the pile. I want the referees to beg us to get them to stop jumping on the pile. I mean, we want to be tenacious so that we're always around the football, and that's just my biggest concern. How are we going to react? I mean, when we play on in the college game now, they hardly blow whistles. They don't blow them. So I mean, guys are smacking into each other. They're jumping on the pile. They're waiting for fumbles to happen so they don't stop the play. So I'm anxious to see our guys play with an edge. And that has me the most nervous, just because of the unknown.
Do you think at this time of year, when it's 95 degrees at kickoff, do you think the desert is an advantage for you guys?
Yes. I think because we practiced outside in that every day. We haven't used the bubble. We practiced one time in the bubble at night because of weather. And it was a dust storm outside you couldn't see, so we went inside. Every night that we practiced in fall camp, there was not one night it was not over 100 degrees. I think that's a huge advantage because when you get used to practicing in air-conditioned climate, you lose that. We won't cramp as easy. I mean, we're used to it, and it's different when the sun is glaring on you. It's hot. When the sun goes away and it's still 101 degrees outside, our guys don't really realize it. I mean, the last couple of days since school started, we practiced in the morning. It's 101, it's 40% humidity, but the sun's out, they're a little bit warm. When we practiced last Saturday night, it was 102 degrees, and there wasn't one complaint. That's just what we do now. So I think that is a huge advantage. I mean, I've been looking at the weather for the first 5 guys that we play at home. It's been pretty hot in San Antonio. I mean, it's been right at 100 degrees. A little bit, the humidity has been relatively the same, except at 8 o'clock at night, it's not 100 degrees in San Antonio. It's down to about 80. So I think we'll have a little bit of an advantage there. In East Lansing, it's been in the 80s with high humidity, but it hadn't been 103. So the hydration, the fact that our guys are used to it, I think so. If you're playing good and you're playing hard, there are excuses. I mean, one time we played Hawaii when I was at San Diego State, and it was in California. We're beating not San Diego State, we were in New Mexico. We're just beating the tar out of them. They're over there sucking oxygen like they're dying. I mean, a mile high. They came 2 years later. They whooped our tail. Not one of them had oxygen. So it's a mindset. I mean, if things are going good, you don't even think about that stuff. If they're not, it's an excuse. Now, if it's a close game, yeah, I think it makes a difference because if we're not cramping, we got all our guys out there. They might not. So I think it's an opportunity that we've had to make our guys tough, and I think it's one of the things we have around here. I mean, I talk about it all the time. Our stuff is so nice. It's too nice. We spoil them. You get soft, and that's one of our chances to make them tough. So I think they've done a good job of that. Not one time have I heard anybody complain about us practicing outside. So that's a good sign because it wasn't that way in the spring. I heard a lot of people talking about how hot it was because they were used to practicing inside. Well, I haven't heard that in a long time, so that's good. You know what? I think that's. There's not a greater honor than your teammates voting you captain. I think those 2 guys have done a phenomenal job. We didn't have DeMonte in the spring, so my interaction with him outside of the meeting room, to his credit, he'd come and visit me just so that he wasn't forgotten with all those other guys getting reps. And when we got back into fall camp and we made some movements around, he came and talked to me again and was like, "Look, Coach, I'm telling you, I need to be up there in the ones. I'm the best one you got." And I said, "Man, I haven't seen you practice 1 rep. I mean, go make a play." Well, that first practice, he made 4 or 5 of them. The next day, he's starting. So not a surprise that he has that kind of confidence. The guys believe in him. I think Rennell is, if Rennell plays up to his ability and matures the way that I think he has, he could be dominant. He could be one of the best nose guards in the country. Rennell's big deal over the last 3 years, when he goes up against somebody really, really good, he plays really, really good. When he goes up somebody that's not as good as him, he disappears. I told him. said, don't be average. Don't let a guy that's not as good as you play with you. And if he his mind is right, if he does it physically, he could be darn special. So, like, not a surprise that those guys chose them too. And it's a great honor.
Where do you feel like the ceiling is for your defensive line as a whole, especially talking about Renell Wren and also the addition of Darius Slade?
You know, I think those guys are. We've got some talent up front in the D line. We're deep. It's the deepest position we are, and those guys are going to play 7 or 8 of them. They're going to play a lot. I mean, it's going to be like musical chairs. People are going to be tired of seeing those guys running in and out of the game. But in my opinion, if we can condition those guys to play 40 or 50 plays at our pace, they're going to be really good. And when we get down into crunch time, the best ones go. So if there's a little bit, like at nose, I think Renell and George are a great tandem. I mean, those two guys that have played a lot of football, and they both do a really good job. So when Renell comes out and George goes in, you don't get a significant drop-off. I think Jalen is a little bit ahead on his side of Hoyt and Slade, and then Shannon on the other side and Doug. They're pretty equal. So when those guys are rotating, it doesn't bother me to have any of the 3 in there up front, because I have confidence that they're going to be able to do their assignment and play their job and be productive. And then when we get down to the crunch time, we'll put the best 3 in that have played the best so far and see what they can do. But I think our D-line, I think they have a chance to do a lot of really good things. And like I said, if we can get them to play 40 to 50 plays in a good rotation, I think they'll be really good.
Jeff?
When you think about the progression at San Diego State, where would you put this defense, the best you can right now, on that scale?
You know, it's hard to compare, because at San Diego State, when I got there in 2011, we changed the scheme a little bit to more of what we were doing in New Mexico, and it was a pretty drastic change from the year before. And it's the thing that the guys got to get used to is I mean, we're not a gap control scheme. We cancel gaps, so we cancel gap with movement. So they've got to be sharp on their block reaction, and that takes a little bit the most time of getting used to. They've done a good job of that stuff in practice, but now when we play on Saturday, it's going to be live bullets. Those things are going to be coming full speed. It's going to be somebody's coming from a look that they haven't seen our guys. I mean, we've been going against our offense now for about 40 practices since spring ball. They're starting to kind of figure out how we block react and how to movement. So when we mess up a reaction, if we're supposed to cross face and we don't, well, all of a sudden a big hole opens up. And now you're putting a guy in the secondary in a really bad predicament to make a tackle, because you give him a lot of space. I mean, our deal is take as much grass away out of it, make it go sideways, and then we'll run them down with our speed. So when you don't make a block reaction the correct way and a big hole opens up, that's where you see the improvement. When those guys are doing those things right, it makes it really hard for an offense, because all of a sudden they're zone blocking. Well, you got a guy block react the correct way. Well, now the next time they zone block, they don't go as far. They slow down. So now you've condensed what they do on defense. Well, because we haven't had any live bullets yet as far as a game, there's going to be a couple guys hit some spots and then go the wrong way. It's going to open some stuff up, and we'll find out how well we tackle. In the tradition, in the history of this defense, when it was first put in at Oregon State, it took them 2 years. At UCLA, Coach Long's first year at UCLA in 1996, they made vast improvement from the prior year on defense. In 97, it was one of the best defenses UCLA ever had. I mean, that was the start of their 20-game win streak. When we were in New Mexico, the first year was pretty shaky. Brian Urlacher's second year, he had 178 tackles and led the nation in tackles. And then from that point on, we progressively moved in the top 25 every year. At San Diego State, 11 and 12. 11 was probably, I think we were probably mid-50s. And then 2012, we win the conference championship. And we were in the top 25 in defense from that point on. So I think the first year, the speed of it, how they block react, they'll learn. Like I said, from week 1 to week 2, usually you make the most improvement as a football team. So hopefully, now I hope that we've got enough guys up front. I've never installed this scheme with as much talent as we've had in the D-line. Okay, we've got guys that are big, but they're really athletic and can move. And that's usually where you lose. That's where it takes the longest between the linebackers and the D-line. So hopefully the progress will be a little bit faster. But I haven't slept much the last 2 nights because I don't know what's going to happen on Saturday, how they're going to play. I mean, they're so young. Are they going to freak out when the lights come on? I mean, I heard the other day we're going to have over 50,000 in the stadium. How are they going to react to that? I mean, we got a couple true freshmen that are going to play that have never played in front of more than 5,000 people. So I'm excited, but I'm nervous now. I'm just nervous. I'm excited for them to play, but I'm nervous to see what they do.